Hello and welcome to another amazing video at Smart English Stories. My name is Amelia Harris. This is the only place where you will learn English and personal development of life skills. Thank you for spending your time with me. I hope you will learn something new today. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel to get new updates. Today, our topic is how I started speaking English in 30 days. This story is for everyone who feels stuck, silent, or afraid to speak in a new language. I want you to know that you are not alone and that real change can happen fast. I was scared to speak, so I stayed quiet for years. Those were my first honest words. Every time I opened my mouth, I heard my own doubt. My heart raced. My voice trembled. I believed I could never say a simple sentence in English. Yet speaking English matters. It opens doors to new friends, better jobs, and bright adventures. It lets you share your dreams, even if your words are broken. I never thought I could speak in just 30 days. I felt small, worried, and tired of waiting. But something happened, and it changed my life. I made a promise that day. Today, I will share that promise and the steps I took. Ready to hear how it all began? Let me know, and I'll continue with Chapter 1, The Day I Felt Helpless. Chapter 1, The Day I Felt Helpless. I still remember the morning of my first real job interview in New York City. I sat in a lobby of a big company, my palms sweaty and my heart pounding. My friend Sarah walked beside me, dressed in a smart suit. She smiled and said, "You are ready." But inside, I felt frozen. When I walked into the glass office, the hiring manager, Mr. Johnson, greeted me with a friendly nod. He asked, "Can you tell me about yourself in English?" My mouth went dry. I opened it, but only a soft, broken phrase came out. I felt every eye on me. Shame burned in my cheeks. After the interview, I met Sarah outside. She looked at me and said, "Why don't you ever talk in English?" Her question hit me like a cold wave. I felt tears in my eyes. I wanted to explain, but no words came. I just stood there, silent, while people passed by, some glancing at me curiously. That evening at home in my small apartment, I replayed every second. I thought about the blank look on Mr. Johnson's face. I heard Sarah's words again, loud and clear. I felt frustration rising like steam in a pot. Why was I so afraid? Why couldn't I form one clear sentence? My inner voice whispered, "You are not good enough." I cried alone in my room. My notebook lay open on the desk, filled with English words I had learned, but I never spoke them. I saw the pages and felt guilty. All those simple words, hello, thank you, please, felt heavy as stones in my mind. The next day, I tried again. I went to a cafe and ordered coffee. I practiced in my head, "I would like a coffee, please." But when the barista asked what size, I froze. I mumbled, "Grande, please." He looked confused. I felt tiny and defeated. I left the cafe with cold coffee in my hands and hot shame in my heart. Over the next week, I avoided situations where I might need English. I stayed home when friends invited me out. I skipped classes and meetings. I told Sarah I was busy. Inside, I was scared of judgment, scared of mistakes, scared of even trying. My world shrank around my fear. One night, My roommate John invited a group of friends to our apartment. They spoke English, laughed at jokes, and shared stories. I sat quietly on the couch, my arms hugging my chest. I wanted to join in, but every time I opened my mouth, I heard only my own stuttering voice. I felt trapped in my silence. That night, I went to bed with tears on my pillow. I realized I was tired of feeling helpless. I was tired of hiding. I wanted my voice back. I wanted to speak without fear. I wanted to be part of the world around me. My heart ached with longing and shame, but also with a small spark of hope. In that dark moment, I knew something had to change. I could not live like this forever. The pain was too deep, the silence too loud. I decided, deep inside, that I must face my fear. I did not know how yet, but I felt the first stirrings of courage. That day, I felt hopeless. But I also felt the first beat of a promise I would soon make. Chapter 2. I made a crazy promise. The morning after that tearful night, I woke with a heavy heart and a restless mind. I sat at my desk, looking at my open notebook. Each blank page seemed to mock me. My fear whispered, "You'll never speak." But then I caught sight of my reflection in the window, eyes filled with longing. In that moment, I made a promise to myself. In 30 days, I will speak English fluently. I wrote the promise in big letters at the top of the first page. My hand trembled as I wrote, "No more waiting, no more hiding." My heart pounded. What if I failed? What if people laughed? The fear felt real, like a heavy chain around my throat. But beneath that fear, a small voice cheered, "This is your action. This is your chance." When I told my friend Sarah about my promise, she laughed softly. 30 days? That's crazy, Mark. Even I laughed, nervous, unsure, but determined. Sarah's laughter stung, but it also ignited something inside me. I realized that everyone might doubt me, but this promise was for me alone. I tucked my notebook in my backpack and took my first small step. I opened a language app and played a listening lesson. That same afternoon, I called my roommate John. "Hey, could you help me practice?" My voice shook. John paused. "Sure, man. What's up?" I swallowed hard and said, "I promised myself I will speak English in 30 days. Can you listen to me?" John didn't laugh. Instead, he smiled and agreed. His support felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. From then on, I refused to let fear rule me. Every time doubt crept in, I remembered that promise written in red ink. I repeated it like a mantra: promise, action, no more waiting. I felt a spark of excitement under the fear, like standing at the edge of a new world. I knew the road ahead would be hard, but that single promise had lit a fire in me. And with that fire, I was ready to begin my wild, wonderful journey. Chapter 3. My simple 30-day plan. When I decided to speak English in 30 days, I needed a clear map. I opened my notebook and drew 4 big boxes, one for each week. This plan was simple, daily, and strong. I wrote my goal at the top: speak English with confidence. Week 1, listening and anth, basic words. Every day, I spent 20 minutes on YouTube videos and English movies with subtitles. I wrote down 100 new words in my notebook, words like hello, story, dream, and powerful. Each morning, I listened to a short podcast while drinking coffee. At night, I repeated the words out loud, even if I stumbled. This daily habit felt my listening ear and filled my mind with English sounds. Week 2, speaking one sentence per day. The second week, I promised myself to speak at least one full sentence each day. On Monday, I said, "My name is Mark and I love learning." On Tuesday, I told John, "I feel excited today." Some sentences were awkward, but I wrote each one in my notebook and repeated it 3 times. This simple action forced me out of my silence and into small, brave steps. Week 3, daily 5-minute conversations. By week 3, I needed more action. I set a timer for 5 minutes each afternoon. I faced the mirror or called Sarah on the phone. We talked about my day. I watched a movie. I learned 10 words. Some conversations felt funny. My broken English made us laugh, but I kept going. I learned that mistakes are part of the process, and each minute helped me speak more confidently. Week 4, full 3-minute story in English. In the final week, I challenged myself to tell a 3-minute story every day. I chose simple tales like how I made coffee or my trip to the park. I used my notebook to write key points, then I spoke from memory. I recorded myself on my phone and listened back. At first, I paused a lot, but by day 25, I spoke nearly without stopping. Tools and setup. I organized my study space with a desk, a notebook, and my laptop. I used a dictionary app whenever I forgot a word. I bookmarked helpful YouTube channels and saved movies with subtitles. Each night, I checked off my plan in my notebook. Seeing those check marks gave me a powerful push to keep going. I learned to repeat simple phrases, to speak even when my voice shook, and to listen without fear of misunderstanding. I didn't wait for perfect. I started with broken English, and each day I grew stronger. This 30-day plan was not magic. It was daily action, a clear goal, and the courage to speak. Chapter 4, My Daily Routine. Every morning began with the soft buzz of my alarm at 6:30 a.m. I rolled out of bed and grabbed my phone to play an English podcast while brushing my teeth. The voices in the podcast spoke slowly and clearly about daily life, about breakfast, about weather, about simple stories. Even though I barely understood at first, I listened closely. As I looked in the mirror, I repeated one English line. Today, I will learn and grow. My reflection smiled back, encouraging me to start the day strong. By 8 a.m., I was at my desk with my notebook open. I wrote down new words from the morning podcast and reviewed yesterday's list. Then I played a short YouTube clip, a scene from a comedy show with subtitles. I paused the video every time I heard a word I didn't know, and I wrote it down. Sometimes I laughed out loud at my own mistakes, like when I thought the character said bread, but it was broad. Those funny moments made me enjoy learning more. In the afternoon, around 1 p.m., I spoke to myself in the mirror for 5 minutes. I stood tall, shoulders back, and told a short story. I went to the park today. I saw a dog. I threw a ball. My words were broken, but I repeated them again and again. Then I recorded my voice on my phone. Listening back, I noticed my mistakes, a wrong pronunciation, or a missing word. I wrote corrections in my notebook and repeated the sentence until it felt smoother. At 4 p.m., I called my friend Sarah or my roommate John. We had a daily check-in call for 3 minutes. I reported my progress. I learned 10 new words today. I spoke with a mirror. I watched a funny video. Their supportive voices cheered me on. Sometimes they laughed when I made mistakes, like saying kitchen instead of chicken, but they always corrected me gently. Their laughter turned into encouragement, and I felt strong enough to keep trying. Evening came at 7 p.m. with a short English movie session. I chose simple dramas or comedies, always with subtitles. I watched one scene, then paused to write down 10 words. I practiced saying them aloud in my living room, sometimes pacing back and forth like an actor rehearsing lines. My dog, Max, would tilt his head at my awkward pronunciation, making me chuckle. These funny, sweet moments reminded me that mistakes are part of the journey. Before bed, at 10 p.m., I read 5 English lines from a short story or an article. I whispered each sentence slowly, feeling the rhythm of the language. I recorded my reading on the app and listened to my own voice. I noticed my improvement. My pronunciation was clearer, my pace more confident. I closed my notebook, looking at the check marks for each completed task: morning podcast, mirror talk, call, movie scene, bedtime reading. Seeing those marks felt like trophies of my daily routine. Through this simple routine, morning mirror, afternoon call, evening movie, nightly reading, I transformed my fear into action. I learned that small steps every day build big change. My routine wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I recorded every laugh, every mistake, every brave word spoken. And each day, I grew a little stronger, a little braver, a little more ready to speak my story in English. Chapter 5: The Pain, the Tears, the Progress. Not every day was full of smiles. Some days felt like climbing a steep hill with heavy bags. I remember one morning in week 2, I stood in front of the mirror, trying to say one simple sentence: "Today is a sunny day." But my mouth froze. I said sunny like shiny, and the rest came out in a messy mix of words. I felt so stupid. I threw my notebook on the bed and sat down with tears rolling down my face. I whispered, "Why am I even doing this?" That week, the fear of judgment hit me the hardest. I had joined a small English group online, and we had our first group call. When it was my turn to speak, my voice shook. I said, "Hello, my name, Mark." That's all. Silence followed. I heard someone giggle, and it crushed me. I left the call early and spent the evening staring at my phone. I wanted to quit so badly. My heart hurt. I thought maybe they were right. Maybe I wasn't smart enough. But the next day, something surprising happened. I played a movie clip I had already watched 3 times. And this time, I understood almost every line. My eyes widened. Wait, I understood that joke. I laughed with the character. It was a small thing, but it felt like flying. That moment gave me hope. I wrote in my notebook, "Small progress is still progress." Another day, my roommate John came home with groceries and asked, "Mark, can you help me with the bags?" Without thinking, I replied, "Yes, I'm coming." He paused. "Dude, you said that in English." We both laughed. I I felt proud, like a child who had just taken his first step. That little sentence gave me energy for the next 3 days. But the tears didn't stop forever. There were more moments, like when I tried ordering food over the phone and the person on the other end said, "Sorry, can you repeat that?" I panicked and hung up. I sat on the floor, ashamed. My hands were shaking. I hated that feeling being misunderstood. But even then, I didn't stop. I remembered my promise. I whispered, "I won't give up." Then, around day 23, something beautiful happened. Sarah and I were walking in Central Park. We were talking about music, and for the first time, I spoke 3 full sentences in English without stopping. She looked at me and said, "Mark, that was amazing. You spoke that so well." I smiled the biggest smile I had in weeks. My heart felt light. That moment stayed with me. I wrote it in my journal. Today, someone believed in me. But first, I had to believe in myself. The pain was real. The tears were real. But the progress? That was powerful. Every day I showed up, even when I didn't feel like it. I made mistakes, cried, and felt tired. But I also laughed, grew, and felt proud. I learned that speaking English wasn't just about language, it was about courage. And I was finding mine, one brave word at a time. Chapter 6, Day 30, The Moment of Truth. Day 30. I remember waking up that morning with my heart beating faster than usual. The sky outside my window was clear, the sun rising slowly, just like my journey. I stood in front of the mirror and whispered, "This is it, Mark. Today, you speak your truth." I had planned something special, a video call with a mentor I admired, a woman named Lisa, a career coach from New York. I had emailed her weeks earlier, asking if she could spare 5 minutes. To my surprise, she said yes. At 3 p.m., I sat at my desk, wearing a blue shirt, trying to hide the sweat on my hands. My notebook was nearby, but I promised myself I wouldn't read. I would speak from the heart. The call started. Lisa smiled warmly and said, "Hi, Mark. Tell me a little about yourself." I took a deep breath and began. "My name is Mark. I come from Texas. 1 month ago, I was scared to speak English. I made a promise to speak in 30 days. Today, I feel proud." Lisa's eyes lit up. "Wow," she said softly. "You're doing great." I spoke for 3 whole minutes. I told her about my routine, my struggles, my small victories. I made 1 or 2 grammar mistakes, but I didn't stop. I didn't freeze. I didn't panic. I spoke. When the call ended, I couldn't stop smiling. I had done it. After the call, I walked to the mirror and said, "Mark, you did it." Then I laughed, half in shock, half in joy. My voice didn't sound scared anymore. It sounded alive. That moment, I realized this wasn't just about English. It was about becoming someone braver. I sat down and wrote the final note in my notebook. Day 30, I spoke. I was nervous, but I did it. I told my story. I lived my promise. I am proud. It wasn't a perfect journey, but it was real, full of struggle and full of growth. Day 30 wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a new, fearless version of myself. Chapter 7, What I Learned. After 30 days of speaking English, I didn't just learn a new language. I discovered something deeper. I found a part of myself that had been sleeping for years. I learned that it's okay to be scared. It's okay to feel small, to make mistakes, to say the wrong word. What matters is that you try. I learned that courage is not about being perfect. It's about showing up, even when your voice shakes. Through this journey, I became more patient. I didn't expect to learn everything in one day. I accepted that small steps build strong bridges. I started loving the process, not just the result. And that changed everything. I now believe something powerful. If I can speak English in 30 days, I can do anything. And so can you. Maybe you're like I was, sitting in silence, afraid to say the wrong word. Maybe people have laughed at you. Maybe you laugh at yourself. But let me tell you something from my heart. Your words are waiting for you. Don't let fear hold them forever. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need fancy courses. You just need one thing, a promise to try every day. That's how I grew. That's how I spoke. That's how I changed my life. Now it's your turn. If you had just 30 days to change your life, would you take the first step today? Backhand index pointing out, drop a yes in the comments if you're ready. And if you've already started, tell me your day one experience. Let's grow together. Sibling speech balloon.